Can you tell that I recorded 2 videos in one day? Or maybe I just don't wash my clothes and I sit very stagnant in this chair and I wait for the sun to get in the same position in the sky every single day to record YouTube videos. Or maybe I just record it in the same day 5 minutes after the last video. Whatever the case, whatever the weather, welcome back. We are talking about trade targets this week, whether it is buy low, sell high, buy high. I don't even know what's going on anymore. I'm high. So we are going to, future employers, strike that from the record. I am going to get straight into this video and talk about a few frauds that you should be looking for, looking away from, and closing your eyes at all possible times. Let's hit the intro.
You can't keep getting away with it! You can't keep getting away with it!
Number one, we have a man by the name of Antonio Gibson. Some people are saying he might not even be the best wide receiver turned running back on his own team. Me, I'm saying he's a buy low candidate for multiple reasons. One, he's very good. And you know what? Let me preface this entire thing by saying I spent a lot of time trying to analyze fantasy football through really in-depth numbers, through really looking at like snap counts and target shares and regression. Let me tell you something. Over the past few years, and mostly weeks or days, I've come to the conclusion that I'm going to go with the eye test because I'm not smart enough to talk about numbers like that. I'm just going to tell you that Antonio Gibson looks very good. Despite him not scoring touchdowns, despite him not catching 15 passes a game like Christian McCaffrey and Ron Rivera saying he's going to be Christian McCaffrey 2.0, I think what he has shown thus far this year is that of a top 5 potential running back and a floor of like a top 10 guy because although, as I said before, he hasn't really shown out yet. It's 2 weeks into the season, and he's played 2 fairly tough defenses. One in the Chargers. I'm a Chargers fan, so I can be unbiased. I do think that their defense is pretty good this year. He did put up 90 rushing yards on this team on 20 carries. By my count, that's like 4.25 yards a carry, which isn't bad. And then he played the Giants this past week and got vultured by JD McKissick on a touchdown. The only concern I would have here, which isn't much of a concern because not many running backs play 90+% of the snaps, is that we haven't seen him in that 2-minute drill. That's why JD McKissick scored the touchdown as a 2-minute drill, kind of like hurry up offense, and he stayed on the field because although Antonio Gibson's a good pass catcher, JD McKissick is better and is better as a blocker. So I wouldn't be too worried about JD McKissick taking his goal line job because he is not the better goal line back. He just found himself in that situation. Along with that, he has seen 7 targets through 2 weeks, average of 3.5 targets a game, which is on pace for over like 50 targets on the season. I'm not worried about him at all. He started slow, but you got to realize that it had to do with matchups, and the fact that he hasn't scored a touchdown is just luck because he was very good on the goal line last year. And I think with his upcoming matchups, I get it. Buffalo is tough. New Orleans in 2 weeks is tough, but around those games, he gets Atlanta, he gets Kansas City, he gets Green Bay. Denver's a little tough. Tampa Bay's a little tough. Carolina's a little bit tough. As I'm saying this, they all sound tough, but he did well against tough defenses, and he's in the NFC East, and he is a good player on a team that is now being led by a new quarterback. I think what we saw out of Taylor Heineke is that he isn't completely awful, and if Fitzpatrick comes back into the fold, this offense is only going to take a step up. I would buy low on Antonio Gibson if anybody is selling him. If you can somehow swing like a 2-for-1, where one of the running backs is like, I don't know, Mike Davis, and you can swing like Mike Davis and Mike Williams for him, I would do that. Even running back straight up, I'd rather have him than Joe Mixon. Even though Joe Mixon blew up week 1, I would rather have Antonio Gibson for the long haul. And even a guy like Najee Harris, who's seeing a ton of touches, I would much prefer a guy who looks better right now in Antonio Gibson. Next player I'll talk about, it could be a buy low or it could be a sell low. It is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm going to pose this question to you guys. What are you doing with Clyde Edwards-Helaire? I have him in my home league. I think the guy stinks. I think that if we closed our eyes and we were painted a picture of what Clyde Edwards-Helaire is, nobody would rank him inside like the top 50 running backs on a week-to-week basis. He is slow. He's kind of fat. He killed a guy in college, which like nobody wants to talk about. I guess I shouldn't talk about that either. He doesn't really catch passes. His vision isn't there. He doesn't get the goal line work. What does he really do? He just goes like 13 for 47 every single week, which is nothing for your team. And then he fumbles to get you even less points. I think if I were in anybody's shoes that owned him, which I am, I would be selling him. But some people want to make the case that he's a regression candidate and somebody who is about to bounce back because his first 2 matchups did come against the Browns and the Baltimore Ravens, which are 2 of the tougher teams in the league when it comes to run defenses. Then you could say, right, he plays the Chargers, Philly, Buffalo, Washington. Those next 4 games aren't that easy either. And then he gets Tennessee, the Giants, Green Bay, Las Vegas, Dallas. Those are easier. But again, I'm going to go back to me saying I want to roll with the eye test. He just doesn't look good. I'm not going to buy a guy because he has a good schedule and a good offense when he isn't really seeing the benefits of being in a good offense. And he really hasn't seen those benefits of being in a good offense for almost 2 years now, or a year and however many weeks into the season we are. Two, count them, two. So I'm going to be selling Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Those of you who are buying low, let me know why, because honestly, I just don't see much going on for him. At this point, a guy who I wasn't drafting at all, I'd rather have than him is now Chase Edmonds. Mike Davis is starting to get into that range because he's getting pass catching work. There's just a few other guys. Like, I'd much rather have Miles Sanders, Chris Carson, Damian Harris. There's just a handful of guys I'd much rather have than him. Daryl Henderson, especially as long as he stays healthy through this week. And I think his draft capital, not only in real life, but his draft capital for fantasy drafts this year will allow you to maybe make a trade that looks fair from the outside looking in. But when you look into the numbers year end or even right now, it should benefit you because, to be honest, he's nothing special. Next up, I have some receivers, sell highs, basically everyone in Tampa Bay. Chris Godwin is the only one that's put up two good games back to back. But the fact that we've seen such inconsistencies not only this year but last year out of this receiving group, when all these guys are eating, whether it's Gronk, Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, even Leonard Fournette's fat ass is getting work out of the backfield. It's just too hard to trust these guys on a week to week basis. I'm not saying that none of them are good plays. I'm just saying that you'll never, with 100% confidence, know which one to start, which one to sit on a week to week basis. And I would rather just alleviate that stress and move a guy like Mike Evans for Deebo Samuel if you could. Move a guy like Chris Godwin for CeeDee Lamb if you could. Move Antonio Brown for, I guess Deontay Johnson's like dead. But if like a guy like Deontay Johnson were to present himself in a trade to you, I would rather take him than Antonio Brown because you just don't know week to week when these guys are going to blow up. I know that this is a high powered offense, but nobody with 100% certainty and confidence can say which one's going to be good on a week to week basis. And because of that, I would just try to get rid of that headache and trade one of them. I know there's not too much analysis there, but then again, I told you that wasn't going to happen in this video. Next up, we got Corey Davis as a buy low. Week one, the kid was awesome. Week two, Zach Wilson absolutely stunk. Week one, he had to face Carolina, which looks to be a pretty good defense this year. This past week, New England kills every rookie quarterback. So the inconsistencies in the offense, sure, they'll be there, but it won't be as exasperated or exaggerated as it was these past 2 weeks. He plays Denver this upcoming week, which is going to be tough again. But I think it's Tennessee, Atlanta, a bye. New England, again, it's tough, but he gets it out of the way. Then Cincinnati, Indy, Buffalo, Miami, Houston. A couple tough games sprinkled in there, but nothing to really make you shy away from. And the fact that you can probably get him for wide receiver 4 prices leads me to believe that he's a pretty good buy right now. As far as what you could realistically offer for him or what I would rather prefer in a deal, I would probably take Corey Davis over like Jarvis Landry. I know Jarvis Landry's out for a few weeks, but people would probably jump all over the trade because they think when Jarvis is back, he's going to be more consistent. I would take Corey Davis there. Even a guy like Chase Claypool, I think it's close, and it's going to sound pretty wild for me to say this, but I probably prefer him to Chase Claypool. I prefer him to like a DJ Chark type, to a Laviska Shenault, who's again hurt. But there's just plenty of wide receivers who I think are going to be less consistent than Corey Davis, who over the past 2 years, when healthy, has looked very, very good. And this is one of his only down games in his last like 15, 16 outings. So I would try to buy low on that. Temper expectations. He's not going to be like a top 24 receiver, but he could easily finish in that 24 to 36 range, which is going to be a better ROI than you could probably imagine. Another guy who I'm going to buy is Brandon Cooks. This team is terrible, but they're not terrible because somehow they're staying in games. What I'm going to say here is you want to buy into volume because a lot of the times touchdowns are inconsistent, and with volume comes receptions. With receptions comes yardage. He's seeing a shit ton of volume. He's the only receiver on this team worth a damn, and I think the front office knows it. He's also a trade candidate. He could be just being displayed as a huge weapon right now and can be traded to a team like, let's say, Green Bay. I don't know if the money works out, but it sounds nice. Or maybe a team like New Orleans, or maybe a team like, I don't know, the Raiders. Who knows? All I know is Brandon Cooks is really, really good. Nobody likes him because he was one concussion away from retiring. Well, guess what? He's been healthy for the better part of like a year and a half now. So I have the utmost confidence in him returning like low end wide receiver 2 numbers. And you can probably acquire him for like wide receiver 3 price tag because he still has that scarlet letter of playing on the Texans. And last up for this video, another guy that you can either buy or sell high, depending on how you feel about him. It's Deebo Samuel. On one hand, with the eye test, I want to say you want to buy high because he looks awesome. He looks incredible. He's great after the catch. He's strong. He's catching everything. He's being used deep down the field. He's being used in the intermediate, behind the line of scrimmage, at the line of scrimmage. On the other hand, it's hard to ignore the fact that George Kittle really hasn't started going yet. Brandon Ayuk, who we know is good at football, hasn't really started going yet, despite Kyle Shanahan making some like wildly ambiguous and cryptic comments about him. I think it's hard to deny the talent is there. And I think that as both of those start to ramp up, as Kittle and Ayuk start to become bigger parts of this offense, that can only hurt Debo Samuel's production. Maybe he becomes more efficient, but it's hard to be more efficient than like 9 catches for 180 yards and like 7 catches for 90 yards. So I don't think that he's going to be anything worse than like a low end wide receiver too, just based off of talent alone. But at the same time, I don't think he's going to return these wide receiver one numbers that he's been putting up on a week to week basis. I view him and Mike Williams extremely similarly. Both of them you can either buy or sell high. But if we're talking 1-for-1 trades and you can somehow pull like a Justin Jefferson for a Debo Samuel or like a CeeDee Lamb or a Amari Cooper for him, I would go ahead and do that ASAP like Rocky. And on the flip side, of people that own Debo Samuel are selling him because they think that he is injury prone, which he kind of is because he's always hurt, even dating back to college with his broken legs and shit, then I would be fine going out and buying him if they're asking for like a Brandon Cooks for him or like a Chase Claypool or Deontay Johnson. I would much rather have a guy like Debo Samuel in my starting lineup on a week to week basis. That's it for today. Let me know what you thought. Let me know potential trades that you're offering or that you're receiving. And if you want my feedback on those for whatever reason, hit me up in the comments. Thumbs up if you enjoyed, thumbs down if you didn't. Subscribe, and we'll catch you guys sometime soon. Peace.
Chatham's on. Foolies glad I'm home. Even my haters kinda glad I'm on. Rest in peace to my vagabond. Rapper, song, singer, suspended, subpoena for misdemeanors. Dreamer, held back asses, Loki still a zen. And I still shake a boat squat. Ran for my broke, got city on the come up. Shot that nigga so side.